All right, let's get right into it. We're going to unpack the wild story of how the mighty 100-year-old auto industry was brought to its knees by something smaller than your fingernail, the semiconductor. It's a tale of a massive, massive miscalculation, and a pretty humbling wake-up call.
You know, this one quote says it all. It captures the pure shock of what happened in 2021. Just imagine you're Ford or GM or Volkswagen, these absolute titans of industry who could literally move mountains of steel with a single phone call. And then, overnight, you've got zero leverage. You're told to wait your turn.
And this wasn't just some minor headache. This was a full-blown 5-alarm fire. We're talking about multi-billion-dollar assembly lines, some of the most sophisticated manufacturing systems on the planet, just grinding to a halt. The whole global orchestra just went silent.
The financial hit was just staggering, $110 billion. That's the estimated revenue the industry lost in 2021 alone, all because they couldn't get their hands on chips that might cost just a few bucks a piece.
And that cash number translates into real cars, or well, cars that never got built. 11 million vehicles that were supposed to roll off the line in 2021, they just didn't. They vanished.
And you could literally see the impact on the ground. You had these giant parking lots filled with thousands of brand new Ford F-150s just sitting there, unfinished. Volkswagen's legendary factory in Wolfsburg had its worst production year since the 1950s. This finely tuned global machine had completely seized up, so you gotta ask, how on earth did this happen?
Well, the answer really boils down to one fundamental mistake. It's a deep misunderstanding of their own supply chain that had been baked into the industry's DNA for decades.
See, for years, car makers perfected this really elegant system called just-in-time. It was super efficient. Parts like tires or steel frames would show up at the factory exactly when they were needed. It was like a beautifully choreographed dance, and it worked perfectly for all those mechanical parts. But chips, well, chips are a completely different beast.
And this slide gets right to the heart of their fatal error. Automakers treated chips, the world of electrons, like they were steel, the world of atoms. They thought if they needed more, they could just order more, and the supply would ramp up. Wrong. A semiconductor factory costs billions of dollars and takes years to build. The supply is rigid, it's inelastic, and assuming otherwise was a catastrophic miscalculation.
So, picture this. It's early 2020. The pandemic hits. Car makers panic, thinking nobody's going to buy cars, so they cancel all their chip orders. But at that exact same moment, the rest of the world is stuck at home, buying laptops, webcams, and game consoles like crazy. So what did the chip foundries do? The only logical thing. They gave the automaker spot in the production line to Apple, to NVIDIA, who were begging for every last chip they could get. Now, to really understand why they couldn't just get their spot back, you have to look at the world from the other side. You have to see it from the perspective of the king of all chip makers, TSMC. And in their world, the entire auto industry was barely even a blip on the radar. And here's a crucial truth. A chip isn't just a chip. Car makers were mostly buying cheap, low-margin, older chips for simple things like controlling the power windows or airbags. But TSMC makes its real money and its reputation on the cutting-edge stuff, the expensive, high-margin, super advanced chips that power our iPhones and AI data centers. Basically, the auto industry was buying old tech, while companies like Apple were funding the future. I mean, this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? At the peak of the crisis, the entire global auto industry made up a measly 3% of TSMC's revenue. 3%! It's basically a rounding error. So, when a car maker cancels an order, it's a shrug. But when Apple calls, you better believe the red carpet rolls out. But that crisis forced a revolution. See, as cars become these electric, software-driven machines, that old power dynamic is being totally flipped on its head. The age of the car as a simple machine, it's over.
Just look at the explosion here. A modern EV can have 3 times the number of chips as an old-school car, and the total value of those chips can be 2 or 3 times higher. And we're not talking about those simple chips anymore. We're talking about the vehicle's brain.
And this leads us to what you could call the great inversion. In the old days, automakers and Apple were in completely different worlds, buying different things. But now, a new Volkswagen needs the same advanced 5-nanometer chips as a new iPhone. Suddenly, they're standing in the exact same line, trying to order from the same very exclusive menu. But here's the catch. Even with this massive shift, there's still a pretty small fish in a giant pond. In 2024, phones and high-performance computing still make up a staggering 86% of TSMC's business. The auto industry has lost all its old leverage, and now they have to fight for every single wafer.
Okay, so the shock of 2021 forced them to tear up the old rules and write a radical new playbook. They're going around the middlemen, they're building direct relationships with chip designers and the foundries themselves. But, and this is a big but, this new aggressive strategy comes with its own set of dangers.
Volkswagen's strategy is a perfect example of how this new game is played. It's this clever three-part attack. First, they're helping design custom chips, and they're telling their partners, hey, this has to be made at TSMC. Second, they're buying the really high-end stuff directly from giants like Qualcomm. And third, get this, they're actually putting their own money, billions of euros, into a joint venture to build a brand new factory with TSMC in Europe.
And it's not just VW. You see this happening across the board. Ford is teaming up with global foundries. Mercedes is cutting direct deals for crucial EV parts. The entire industry is fundamentally rewiring its supply chain to get closer to the source of the silicon.
But here's the twist in the tale. This mad dash to secure chips isn't a silver bullet, because in solving the problem of scarcity, these car companies may have stumbled into a whole new set of minefields.
So what are these new dangers? Well, for one, there's a huge financial risk. What happens if all this panic buying creates a massive glut of chips in a few years? They could be stuck with billions in contracts for parts they don't need. Then there's the culture clash. Can these 100-year-old manufacturing cultures really keep up with the breakneck speed of Silicon Valley? And maybe the biggest risk of all, by chasing the most advanced chips, they have made themselves more dependent than ever on one tiny, geopolitically sensitive island, Taiwan.
And that really brings us to the crucial, lingering question. The auto industry has bet its entire future on turning the car into a data center on wheels. But in doing so, it has made itself terrifyingly vulnerable. A conflict over Taiwan wouldn't just be another supply chain hiccup. It would be a full-stop, lights-out catastrophe. It would leave the world's most advanced cars dead on arrival. And that's the trillion-dollar question that's hanging over the entire industry right now.